Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today, we're going to talk about love yourself. I know that just a couple of episodes earlier, I did a podcast on meeting yourself where you are, and that's accepting yourself as you are right here, right now. However, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with this one. Basically, what brought it to mind is that what I was going through in terms of the aging process, I found myself looking in the mirror more often and looking at my neck and looking at this and looking at that and thinking, wow, I'm changing. And I started ordering different cosmetics that I thought would be a miracle cure. And then I stopped and I thought, why am I doing this? Because I know the external benefits don't necessarily benefit you on the inside. I got to thinking about when I was younger. I honestly, physically had everything going for me. I still felt empty on the inside. And now fast forward to where I am now. And I'm going through physical struggle. But I gotta say, I feel happier. So I think about all these people that go through leaps and bounds and try to make their external self look better, thinking it's going to change things. It does not. And since I've lived on both sides of the fence, I can honestly say I really realized happiness starts on the inside. There's that old cliche about happiness is an inside job. That is so true, absolutely true. Now, on the other hand, though, I believe in feeling your best and being your best self. So if you want to do whatever, a little nip tuck, microblade eyebrows, whatever makes you feel good, then you should do it. But you always want to keep in mind that you do it for the right reasons. You do it for you. You don't do it to impress anybody else. You don't do it because you think it's going to bring you more happiness, because it does not. But you do it for you because it makes you feel better. Sometimes when we go through things, which I'll refer to it as like a dry desert, where you feel like you're wandering aimlessly by yourself, it brings you to your knees. But I want you to look at that differently instead of the pity party thinking, why is this happening to me? Think about it as you've been chosen. You've been chosen to make the changes that we wouldn't make if everything was going our way. There's a song by Jelly Roll. I think we all know who Jelly Roll is. For those of you that don't, he's a well-known country artist. The lyrics are, he apparently went to a meeting in, I think it was a church basement, and he felt uncomfortable because he never thought he would go to something like that. But the person in charge said to him, nobody comes through these doors on a winning streak. And it's so true, because when we are walking into where we're supposed to be, and I always think about it as like a superhero busting through a wall or busting through a curtain and coming out on the other side, we don't really know what it's going to be like when we enter that transformation of who our true self is, because we haven't been there yet. But if we can go without kicking or screaming, it makes it a lot easier. However, most of us would not be going through this if had the option. So unfortunately, sometimes certain things happen to us to get our attention. So we do cross through and really take the time to let our body transform into our best selves. And along with that, you do soul searching. You find out who you should care about, who cares about you, what your priorities should be, people that are there for you. And there always are extenuating circumstances. But for the most part, when you find out who loves you, who's there for you, it's generally your family. Another thing that I have noticed is those that don't care so much about what others think, that take the personal journey to achieve who they want to be. Well, I'm going to share with you an example. We all know who Ryan Seacrest is. He had an interest in becoming a disc jockey. He was very interested in the radio at a young age. And when he was young, he said something to the effect of the neighborhood kids would be outside playing, and he would be in his room pretending he was a DJ. And look where that's carried him. It's being focused on who you want to be, not being so much with the crowd, not doing it to impress anybody else. Another example is when I went to my class reunion. There was a guy there that I remember from school, and he wasn't particularly popular. I mean, he was okay. He was an average guy. I remember him being a nice guy. But all these years later, out of everyone in that reunion, I would say he was the most successful. And probably because he did not get caught up in what the group is doing. So if you feel isolated, just remember, it's to direct you in being your best self. And I think in many ways that you have been chosen to become that special person, to become who you were meant to be, because a lot of people just live status quo. I don't know. I'm not in their bodies or their minds. I don't know if they've had the opportunity and just chose to stay where they're at. But it seems when difficulties come upon you, it is a chance to learn, a chance to grow. But at the same time, accept the fact that we are growing, that we are going through something to become a better person. It is so much easier to accept at that point. I had an interesting thing happen just yesterday, in fact. I went to lunch with a couple girls, and one of them brought a Christmas present for me. And we're here in June. And she said to me, "Oh, so-and-so said that you couldn't make the gathering that we had around Christmas. So I'm bringing this to you." And I thought, I didn't even know about a gathering around Christmas. So in other words, somebody took it upon themselves because of my physical limitations that they spoke for me and said I couldn't make it. Well, first of all, without being said, I'm an adult, and if I can't make it somewhere, I'm perfectly capable of expressing that myself. However, this happened, and I realized how much I've grown because I really don't care so much that happened. But with that being said, we grow in that also. We learn to accept that being alone doesn't mean you're going to be lonely. It could very possibly mean that you were the chosen one. And you do go through hurts or people saying things like I went through yesterday. But it's okay because this all brought me to where I'm at right now. So now we're going to go back to the cosmetic thing. And in line with everything else, in line with becoming the best person, becoming your true self, which is the inside job, we're going to talk about accepting everybody is getting older. Things change. And the first instinct is to get the latest and greatest cosmetics that do this or that. But it's also accepting who we are, making the changes because they make us happy. So no matter what you do, you have to do it for the right reasons. You have to do it to impress you, not to impress anybody else, to feel good about yourself. whatever makes you feel good. So whatever you do, whether it be career change, whatever is going on with you, you do it for you. You do it because it makes you feel better. And when you do go through a hard time, when something strikes you that you think is a why me kind of moment, when you stop and think about that, by going through these kinds of things, you have the strength to make that job change that you needed to make any kind of change that you needed to make that perhaps you would have made if you weren't going through this. So sometimes when you're going through a dry, deserty kind of place and you feel isolated or you feel alone, it's to get you to shift gears and be where you should be. And if things are all good, all going your way, we rarely make the choice to make a change on our own. Because the big picture is, and we're in an age of social media, no matter how many likes, how many follows we get, in the big scheme of things, that really doesn't mean a lot. Unless we want to be an influencer, then that would be part of a career goal. But we live in a time when so many people base who they are or how many people like them or how far they've come on how many likes or how many followers we get. But truly, all of that social media following, likes, etc., doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you who you are today. It doesn't make you your best self. It's just another tool to fill our time. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Sometimes it appears outwardly that we have everything going for us, but we know on the inside that we still have something that needs to be fulfilled or changed. And when you do that, when you're open to make your changes, people will give you a little bit more respect, because the truth is you won't need as many people around you. Yes, there will be those that try to keep you where you were. And I know I've talked about this before because it is very, very apparent that it does in fact happen. So be prepared. But that's okay too, because once you become confident in who you are and you walk in your true self, not only does it not matter what others think, but they can treat you the way they want to treat you, and it doesn't faze you. It doesn't matter if it's going on behind the scenes, because it makes it irrelevant. It makes it non-existent. So when you get to the point where you've developed on the inside with a strong foundation of who you are and loving yourself, and I know we've heard loving yourself forever, but I do mean that. I mean truly loving yourself, making yourself your priority, to where you're not afraid to ask for the things that you need. You're not afraid to make the changes that you need to make in your life for you. Like I said, when my health started to decline and I went on a quest trying to get healthy, it also led me to making certain changes that I would not have made. And right now I almost feel conflicted because I'm still having physical difficulties. But I know I've told you this in the past, that ironically, I've got to say in my heart of hearts, I am happier than I was before. I think because I made the changes that needed to be made, not only internally, but mentally, in every way. And they were very positive changes. I feel different than I thought I would ever feel. I can't even explain it. It's a journey for sure. But if I hadn't gone through what I went through, and believe me, it was devastation at the time. From getting the diagnosis onward, it was devastating. But when I picked myself up and it started transforming me, I felt a happiness and a strength I never knew was possible. So again, like I said, if you're going through a bad time, remember it's probably because you're chosen. It's probably because you want to make changes or your desire is to be your best self. And so you're going to be guided into making these changes. And the way you're guided is not always the easiest way, but it gets the job done. Just remember, you're not alone. There are a lot of us out there that are on a quest to be better, to be our best selves. And as we're going through things that guide us in making these changes, it's not always an easy journey, but it is a journey. And you've got to learn to embrace it, because you can look at things in a positive way or a negative way. And the negative way is, poor me, I'm going through this. But the positive way, and this is the reality, is that things are happening to us to make certain changes. And you may not see it now, you may not know it now. So in closing, I want to remind you to love yourself just as you are. And if you see age starting to take hold, remember that doesn't identify you. Yes, somebody might say, wow, she looks really good. And then they move on. Believe me, they don't give you more than a minute's worth of thought. However, it's what you feel about you. It's what you feel on the inside. So if you make changes, and as I said earlier, I'm all for making yourself feel the best you can feel. But do it for the right reasons. Do it for you because it makes you feel good. Don't do it to impress anybody else. With that being said, I wish you all a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.